Section 43. The Salvation Army Social Reform Wing. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Tom Hirsch. The plan for creation of the Labor Bureau. Temporary headquarters, 36 Upper Thames Street, London, E.C. Objects: the bringing together of employers and workers for their mutual advantage, making known the wants of each to each by providing a ready method of communication. Plan of operation: the opening of a central registry office, which for the present will be located at the above address, and where registers will be kept free of charge, wherein the wants of both employers and workers will be recorded, the registers being open for consultation by all interested. Public waiting rooms for male and female, to which the unemployed may come for the purpose of scanning the newspapers, the insertion of advertisements for employment in all newspapers at lowest rates, writing tables, etc., provided for their use to enable them to write applications for situations on work, the receiving of letters, replies to applications for employment for unemployed workers. The waiting rooms will also act as houses of call, where employers can meet and enter into engagements with workers of all kinds, by appointment or otherwise, thus doing away with the snare that awaits many of the unemployed, who have no place to wait other than the public house, which at present is almost the only house of call for out-of-work men. By making known to the public generally the wants of the unemployed by means of advertisements, by circulars, and direct application to employers, the issue of labor statistics with information as to the number of unemployed who are anxious for work, the various trades and occupations they represent, etc., etc. The opening of branches of the Labor Bureau as fast as funds and opportunities permit, in all the large towns and centers of industry throughout Great Britain. In connection with the Labor Bureau, we propose to deal with both skilled and unskilled workers, amongst the latter forming such agencies as Sandwich Board Men's Society, Shoeblack, carpet beating, whitewashing, window cleaning, wood chopping, and other brigades, all of which will, with many others, be put into operation as far as the assistance of the public in the shape of applying for workers of all kinds will afford us the opportunity. A domestic servants' agency will also be a branch of the Bureau, and a home for domestic servants out of situation is also in contemplation. In this and other matters funds alone are required to commence operations. All communications, donations, etc., should be addressed as above, marked Labor Bureau, etc. Central Labor Bureau, Local Agents and Correspondence Department. Letter to proposed local correspondent. Dear Comrade, the enclosed letter, which has been sent to our officers throughout the field, will explain the object we have in view. Your name has been suggested to us as one whose heart is thoroughly in sympathy with any effort on behalf of poor, suffering humanity. We are anxious to have in connection with each of our corps, and in every locality throughout the kingdom, some sympathetic, level-headed comrade, acting as our agent or local correspondent, to whom we could refer at all times for reliable information, and who would take it as work of love to regularly communicate useful information respecting the social condition of things generally in their neighborhood. Kindly reply giving us your views and feelings on the subject as soon as possible, as we are anxious to organize at once. The first business on hand is for us to get information of those out of work and employers requiring workers, so that we can place them upon our registers and make known the wants both of employers and employees. We shall be glad of a communication from you, giving us some facts as to the condition of things in your locality, or any ideas or suggestions you would like to give, calculated to help us in connection with this good work. I may say that the social wing not only comprehends the labor question, but also prison rescue and other branches of salvation work, dealing with broken-down humanity generally, so that you can see what a great blessing you may be to the work of God by cooperating with us. Believe me to be, yours affectionately for the suffering and the lost, etc. Local Agents and Correspondence Department. Proposition for local agent, correspondent, etc., requesting name, address, occupation, if a soldier, what corps, if not a soldier, what denomination, if spoken to on the subject, what reply they have made. Signed, Corps, dated. Kindly return this as soon as possible, and we will then place ourselves in communication with the comrade you propose for this position. To employers of labor. Notice of Labor Bureau Local Office of Registration opening. We beg to bring to your notice the fact that the Salvation Army has opened at the above address, in connection with the Social Reform Wing, a labor bureau for the registration of the wants of all classes of labor, for both employer and employee in London and throughout the kingdom, our object being to place in communication with each other, for mutual advantage, those who want workers and those who want work. Arrangements have been made at the above address for waiting rooms, where employers can see unemployed men and women, and where the latter may have accommodation to write letters, see the advertisements in the papers, etc., etc. If you are in want of workers of any kind, will you kindly fill up the enclosed form and return it to us? We will then have the particulars entered up, and endeavor to have your wants supplied. All applications, I need hardly assure you, will have our best attention, whether they refer to work of a permanent or temporary character. We shall also be glad, through the Information Office of Labor Department, to give you any further information as to our plans, etc., or an officer will wait upon you to receive instructions for the supply of workers, if requested. As no charge will be made for registration of either the wants of employers or the wants of the unemployed, it will be obvious that a considerable outlay will be necessary to sustain these operations in active usefulness, and that therefore financial help will be greatly needed. We shall gratefully receive donations from the smallest coin up to help to cover the cost of working this department. We think it right to say that only in special cases shall we feel at liberty to give personal recommendations. This, however, will no doubt be understood, seeing that we shall have to deal with very large numbers who are total strangers to us. Please address all communications or donations as above, marked Central Labor Bureau, etc. We propose to enter upon a crusade against sweating. Will you help us? Dear Sir, in connection with the Social Reform Wing, a Central Labor Bureau has been opened, one department of which will deal especially with that class of labor termed unskilled, from amongst whom are drawn boardmen, messengers, bill distributors, circular addressers, window cleaners, whitewashers, carpet beaters, etc., etc. It is very important that work given to these workers, and others not enumerated, should be taxed as little as possible by the contractor, or those who act between the employer and the worker. In all our operations in this capacity, we do not propose to make profit out of those we benefit, paying over the whole amount received, less, say, 1 halfpenny in the shilling, or some such small sum which will go towards the expense of providing boards for sandwich boardmen, the hire of barrows, purchase of necessary tools, etc., etc. We are very anxious to help that most needy class, the boardmen, many of whom are sweated out of their miserable earnings, receiving often as low as 1 shilling for a day's toil. We appeal to all who sympathize with suffering humanity, especially religious and philanthropic individuals and societies, to assist us in our efforts, by placing orders for the supply of boardmen, messengers, bill distributors, window cleaners, and other kinds of labor in our hands. Our charge for boardmen will be 2s. 2d, including boards, the placing and proper supervision of the men, etc. 2s. at least will go directly to the men. Most of the hirers of boardmen pay this, and some even more, but often not more than 1/2 reaches the men. We shall be glad to forward you further information of our plans, or will send a representative to further explain or to take orders on receiving notice from you to that effect. Believe me to be yours faithfully, etc. Central Labor Bureau, notice to the unemployed male and female. A free registry for all kinds of unemployed labor has been opened at the above address. If you want work, call and make yourself and your wants known. Enter your name and address and wants on the registers, or fill up a form below and hand it in at above address. Look over the advertising pages of the papers provided. Tables with pens and ink are provided for you to write for situations. If you live at a distance, fill up this form giving all particulars or references and forward to Commissioner Smith, care of the Labor Bureau, requesting your name, address, kind of work wanted, wages you ask, age, during the past 10 years have you had regular employment, for how long, what kind of work, what work can you do, what have you worked at odd times, how much did you earn when regularly employed, how much did you earn when irregularly employed, are you married, is wife living, how many children and their ages. If you were put on a farm to work at anything you could do, and were supplied with food, lodging, and clothes, with a view to getting you on your feet, would you do all you could? End of section 43. Recording by Tom Hirsch.